She was fired the same week her marriage ended.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m. Claire Whitfield sat in a glass conference room, watching her own name get erased from a whiteboard. 14 years. Gone in 4 minutes. And when she got home that night, bag still on her shoulder, badge still in her pocket, there was a second box waiting for her. Her husband's wedding ring on the kitchen counter. No note. This is the story of the week Claire Whitfield lost everything she thought she was and found the one thing she'd buried alive to become it.
Claire was 38 years old, a marketing director, the kind of woman who color-coded her calendar and answered emails at midnight because that's just what it takes. She'd built a life that looked, from the outside, like a finished puzzle. Corner office, husband of 11 years, a house with a mortgage she was proud of, not scared of. But puzzles built to look finished from the outside are often held together by nothing more than tape on the back. The company called it restructuring. Claire called it what it was, a betrayal dressed in corporate language. 14 years of 80-hour weeks, of missed dinners, of telling herself, next year I'll slow down. Erased with a severance package and a cardboard box. She drove home, already rehearsing how she'd explain this to her husband, how she'd say it calmly, how she'd stay composed. She never got the chance. Because when she walked through the door, he was already gone. Not just out, gone. Closet empty, noteless, just a ring on the counter and a silence so loud it had a pulse.
2 losses. Same week. Same woman who had spent her whole adult life being the one who handled things. Claire didn't cry that night. She just sat on her kitchen floor until the sun came up, staring at a ring that used to mean forever. Within a week, Claire had packed what fit in her car and driven 3 hours to the one place she swore she'd never go back to. Her childhood bedroom. Same faded wallpaper, same twin bed. A 38-year-old woman lying under a ceiling she used to stare at as a teenager, wondering what her life would become. She told her mother she was fine. Told her friends she was fine. Told the mirror she was fine. Until the words stopped meaning anything at all. Because that's what Claire did. She performed. She managed. She optimized. Even her grief, she tried to schedule. Her mother, a quiet woman named Ruth, who'd spent 40 years running the town's only diner, watched her daughter move through the house like a ghost, wearing competence as a mask. Ruth didn't offer platitudes. She didn't say everything happens for a reason. She didn't hug her and tell her it would be okay. Instead, one evening, she walked into Claire's room and set a shoebox on the bed. Old, dust on the lid, tape yellowed with age. "What is this?" Claire asked. Ruth sat down, and for the first time in Claire's entire life, her mother said something that cracked the room wide open. "I never told you," Ruth said quietly, "that I wanted to be a pilot." Claire opened the box. Inside, dozens of envelopes, unopened. Every one addressed to a young woman named Ruth Ellen Hayes. Every one from a flight school, an aviation program, an airline cadet office, postmarked over 4 decades ago. "You never opened them," Claire whispered. "I got engaged to your father the spring I applied," Ruth said. "And somewhere between the wedding and the diner and you kids, I decided wanting things was a luxury I didn't have time for.
So I stopped opening the door. It felt safer than finding out whether I'd been rejected, or worse, accepted, and having to choose." The room went silent. Not an uncomfortable silence, a loaded one. The kind of silence that finally lets a person stop performing fine. Claire looked at her mother, this woman she'd only ever known as steady, practical, unshakable, and saw for the first time a whole other life that had quietly died so that Claire's could exist. "Why are you telling me this now?" Claire asked. Ruth took her daughter's hand. "Because you're lying in that bed acting like you lost your whole life this week. But baby," she paused, "you didn't lose your life. You lost the job you performed and the marriage you were managing. That's not the same as losing you. I need you to open your envelopes, Claire, while you still can." Claire didn't have some cinematic epiphany the next morning. Real turning points rarely look like the movies. What she had instead was a slow, uncomfortable excavation. She started asking herself a question she hadn't asked in 15 years. Not what looks impressive, but what did I actually want before I learned to want what was safe? And there it was, buried under a decade of LinkedIn headlines and performance reviews: aviation, logistics, the industry she'd fallen in love with during a college internship, the one she'd walked away from because a safer, better-paying marketing job had come along at exactly the wrong, tempting moment. At 39 years old, Claire Whitfield did something almost nobody around her understood. She took an unpaid internship at an aviation logistics firm, entry level, alongside 22-year-olds who had no idea their new intern used to run 7-figure marketing budgets. People whispered. Some pitied her. Her old colleagues called it a quarter-life crisis at the wrong age. Her father-in-law, soon-to-be ex-father-in-law, actually laughed. Claire didn't argue with any of them. She just showed up every single day, learning freight systems and flight coordination from scratch, humbled in a way her old title had never allowed her to be. Some nights, she went home to that same childhood bedroom and cried from sheer exhaustion. Not the performing kind of tired, the real kind. The kind that comes from finally doing something true. 11 months later, Claire stood in a different conference room. Smaller company, no corner office, no prestigious title on the door. But when her supervisor called her name and announced her promotion to operations coordinator, the youngest hire ever moved up that fast in the company's history, Claire felt something she hadn't felt in the 14 years at her old job. Pride that wasn't performance. Success that wasn't armor. She called her mother that night. "I got it, Mom." There was a long quiet on the other end of the line. Then,
softly. I opened one of my envelopes, last week, just to see. And rejected. 1983. Turns out I wasn't good enough back then either. Claire laughed. The first real laugh in almost a year. Mom, none of that matters anymore. I know, Ruth said. That's the whole point, sweetheart. It never did. Here's what Claire's story is really about. We spend so much of our lives performing an identity that feels safe. The reliable one, the composed one, the one who has it together. That we forget to ask whether that identity was ever actually ours. Rock bottom didn't destroy Claire's life. It destroyed the performance of a life she'd been maintaining out of fear. Grief, job loss, heartbreak. Sometimes they're not punishments. Sometimes they're a demolition crew, tearing down a structure you never chose for yourself in the first place, so something truer can finally be built. So if you're in the wreckage right now, if this week or this year has taken things you thought defined you, ask yourself Ruth's question. What envelope have you never opened? What version of you did you bury for the sake of safe? Because rock bottom isn't the end of your story. It's the first solid ground you've stood on in years.
Open the envelope.
Even if it says no, especially if it might say yes.